So I speak in response to the OPD number 474. This document deals with a panel supervising Defence's conduct in responding to the Burton report. In a chain of Freedom of Information requests, every quarterly report of the panel was released, yet the final report was refused in its entirety. Before the final report was rejected, the last quarterly report was released in Defence Freedom of Information 500-2324. In section 10 of that quarterly report, page 6 of the release, the Oversight Panel foreshadows that their final report has been prepared and provided to Defence in September 2023. The panel met with Defence on factual accuracy, clarity, sensitivity and classification of the report. Defence confirmed there was no information within the report requiring a security classification. The panel then stated, quote, "It will therefore be open to you, Deputy Prime Minister, Defence Minister Miles, to table that report in the Parliament." End of quote. While the panel does not specifically mention prejudice in that report, it would appear strange if they had cleared the final report with Defence only for some highly prejudicial information that justifies defying an order of the Senate to make it past the goalkeeper. The final report was then provided to Deputy Prime Minister or Defence Minister Miles on or around 8 November 2023. On 19 February 2024, the Defence Department refused Freedom of Information Request 577-2324 for this final report that the Senate has now ordered the government to table. Under the Freedom of Information Act, an exemption to disclose on the basis of prejudice must be made under section 37. There was no mention of section 37 or prejudice in the Freedom of Information refusal. The only ground mentioned was section 47C(1) deliberative process. The minister says there's prejudicial information in this document in response to the Senate order, yet the Freedom of Information decision does not mention any prejudicial information. Before we even get to arguing about the merits of the Freedom of Information refusal, there was an unacceptable conflict of interest by the person making that decision. The refusal was signed by Catherine Wallace. Wallace is the Director-General of the Afghanistan Inquiry Response Task Force. The Afghanistan Inquiry Implementation Oversight Panel is meant to be reviewing whether the Afghanistan Inquiry Response Task Force is properly doing their job. The task force is internal to Defence, while the panel is meant to be an independent external supervisor. We have the panel creating a final report on whether the task force has failed to do its job. And then the Director-General of the task force makes a decision to keep this report card a secret. Even worse, the Director-General did not include that position on her signature in refusing the request. Wallace included her full title, Director-General of the Afghanistan Inquiry Response Task Force, just days earlier in a separate FOI decision. In refusing the FOI on this panel report, that title in her signature line magically disappears. The avenue to make a complaint about this conflict of interest is messy. The NACC, the National Anti-Corruption Commission, is headed by Paul Burton. Major General Paul Burton, as he was at the time, wrote the Inspector General Australian Defence Force Afghanistan Inquiry report that started this whole episode, of which the Oversight Panel has been critical. The Deputy Prime Minister and part-time Defence Minister attended the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide and was asked about this final report. When the Commission asked Minister Miles if the report we're talking about here would be released before the Royal Commission was over, the Minister answered he was still thinking about it. No mention of prejudicial criminal proceedings, just deliberation. So the Minister has claimed he's advised there's prejudicial information in this final report. The panel says it's been cleared with Defence. The FOI refusal makes no mention of prejudice. The Minister does not mention prejudice to the Royal Commission. The question is, from where did this evidence appear? Where did this advice appear? From where did this advice appear? It smells like a delaying tactic. To be frank, I don't believe the claim of prejudice is genuine. Yet it may be, and for that reason we've lodged Freedom of Information requests with the Office of the Special Investigator and the Department of Defence as to when they advised the Minister this report would be prejudicial. We expect the Minister to provide much more detail on this claim of prejudice before we even think of accepting it. We remind the Minister that a Senate order is not something to be complied with at your leisure. We will pursue this report, which will outline how Defence senior leadership has failed to hold any senior officers accountable while throwing soldiers under the bus. And I seek leave to continue my remarks.
Thank you, Senator.